According to the Alberta College of Physicians and Surgeons, the number of doctors prescribing medical marijuana has jumped 50% by the end of April. Josh Ryan has a look at patient demand, willingness to discuss, and other factors linked to the increase in this week's Healthy Living.
Despite caution against prescribing medical marijuana, prescription numbers have sharply increased, in part from the feedback of patients.
The physician establishment is still not completely assured that it works. But from what we hear from our patients, anecdotally, there seems to be a lot of positive things to the use of marijuana for medical reasons.
The cannabis compound cannabidiol has been particularly recommended for helping relieve a variety of conditions without the psychoactivity of THC.
It helps me do my job because I sit in a car all day, so my back starts to really hurt if I'm in the car all day, and with the CBD it alleviates that pain, makes it manageable to sit in the car for 8 hours.
Medical marijuana has also been used to treat some more severe ailments.
It has benefited patients who have severe nausea as a result of maybe medications that are given for cancer, and some of them also take it for pain relief as well as nausea, and it seems to benefit some patients who've had multiple sclerosis.
Some studies, including one from the University of Michigan, have shown medical marijuana can not only replace opioids to treat chronic pain, but also help reduce reliance on them.
Quite a few people, I know 3 or 4 people who actually got off opiates using medical marijuana.
However, Gick says understanding exactly what is in medical marijuana is needed rather than trying it blind.
I think it's really beneficial for people to know what they're getting, be able to have a doctor regulate, say you need this or you need that, and using it as a medicine rather than just a free-for-all.
Josh Ryan, Newcap News.
Well, craft beer has been growing in popularity as many unique brews are being created to suit different taste buds. And now a local brewery has just opened up Lloydminster's first tap room. Brittany Matika reports.
Helen and Brad Hoffman were married last summer, and if being busy tying the knot wasn't enough, they had an idea to begin brewing craft beer.
We have been to lots of craft breweries all over Alberta in the States. Every time we'd go on a vacation, we'd kind of look for the local brewery, and there always a really cool vibe and just neat atmosphere, and we didn't have that here in Lloyd, and it was something that we wanted to bring to our hometown.
The Hoffmans are excited to be expanding with the opening of their tap room. It's been a long journey of trial and error to come up with some unique brews. When we first started out, we tried to keep fairly conservative with the styles of beer that we were trying out. Didn't really have a feel for the craft beer crowd yet in Lloydminster. So now that we do, and we've learned that there are people that like every type of beer here. So we've expanded our lineup and diversified a bit.
6 different taps that we have on available right now. And they range from a very pale, light beer, a light session ale, to a very dark porter. We have an IPA, we have a Hefeweizen, which is an old school traditional German style wheat beer, and we have a couple of different things that we've just experimented with.
Small craft breweries have been opening up across Alberta, and the number has tripled in the last 3 years. James says the popularity of specialty beer lies in what patrons' taste buds are chasing.
The sour ale, which over the past 3-4 years they've become quite popular. As this craft beer thing has expanded, people went from these IPAs to stouts to now sour ale. So we did a sour, and when we tap that cask in a couple of weeks here, it's going to be totally unique in Lloydminster.
The Hoffmans are excited to share their passion for beer and will be open a few days a week to get the tap room off the ground.
Come in and get a growler fill, come hang out, have a few pints, just hang out, use the Wi-Fi, I don't know, but it's going to be a fun place to hang out, we hope.
Brittany Matika, Newcap News.
Well, the high volume of water falling in the MD of Bonnyville is impacting more than just farmers in the area. Swollen waterways have caused Moose Lake to rise to its highest level in a generation. Brian Lentz reports.
We used to have 15-20 feet of beach, and now we have 2.
That's the case for most people living along Moose Lake near Bonnyville.
Well, this started off earlier this spring when we had a lot of snow and rain, and The water tables came up, the lake levels came up.
And the rain has just kept coming, increasing Moose Lake's water level to a 50-year high and damaging residents' prized beachfronts.
Where it's all sand, that's where the most damage occurs. Because then at that point, the sand is just washed back into the lake from the wave action.
Trisha is one of the lucky ones. She's only seen the lake swallow up her picnic area and wash out her garden's rock wall.
We've lost our fire pit area. Lots of other people's stuff has fallen into the lake. We've had gates show up, chairs show up, everything.
Many property owners are using sandbags to prevent further erosion, but the high water has also made it difficult for boaters to access the lake.
Basically, the whole vehicle now is in the water. Where the boat launch used to start, now the vehicle is fully in water. It's incredible. It's high.
With the record-breaking rainfall, the lake has surpassed the MD's ability to control the water level.
Take a magic wand and take the lake down by a foot tomorrow. There's so much water built up into the ground around it, it would be full within a week anyway, right back up again. So all we can really hope for is the rains to stop and some hot weather to evaporate it, and away we go.
Time will tell what next spring is going to be like, but I sure hope we don't get a couple of big snowfalls like we did this year, because it's going to be disastrous in the spring.
Brian Lentz, Newcap News.
ADM Lloydminster is benefiting from grants under the Growing Forward 2 program, which is expiring next March. A press release from Alberta's Ag Ministry states the American company, which services the Midwest area, has received $546,000 towards the cost of new processing equipment.
I know it's going to be, it's an opportunity for both the provincial and the federal government as a joint program to have an input into a successful business.
The grants total some $1.3 million to 4 northern Alberta food processors to meet a growing demand for high-quality products.
Any company within Alberta that's doing agriculture here in agri-processing, are eligible for the grant.
The other companies to benefit are Bunge Canada, GFR Ingredients, and Champion Pet Foods LP. Make hay while the sun shines. That's how the old saying goes. Our Gerard Lampow finds out the ingredients for successful haying.
Behind me is an irrigation system which has hardly been used in the last 7 or 8 years. And that's good news for this producer who's busy getting his haying done so that he can feed his herd during winter.
Right now, it's kind of a tough week on the market, so we're just hang on, see what next week does.
Merv Mann is watching the Chicago mercantile cattle prices. The Mann family have been ranching for over 100 years in the Midwest region. Overall, they have about 1,300 steers. A healthy supply of hay must be stored away for the winter months.
We feel awful lucky or blessed here. You take a big portion of southern provinces here in BC are real train wreck, and I think if you get further north of us, that some places have found way too much rain. So we've been lucky. We've been catching these thunder showers here through July when it's been so hot.
A hay bale is about $50, but that could go up. Man uses about 5 to 6 pounds of grain in his ration. The herd consumes about 20 pounds of hay daily.
More volume the later you wait, and the better quality hay the earlier cut it. So it's kind of a soft to get the most volume you can but still have good quality.
If you wait too long, it gets too dry, and if the grass is too wet, the hay gets moldy.
Well, it has to be under 20 to keep, 20% moisture, and I think our ideal would, if we could be 16 or 17% moisture, start baling.
Even as Man gets his haying done, with an eye on the market, he remains optimistic.
It's going to be a decent year. I mean, something would really have to hurt it badly to drop it down, and so far it looks pretty good.
Gerard Lampow, Newcap News.
Across the prairies, canola produces beautiful yellow flowers each year, but it requires the right mix of sun and rain to maximize its yield. In this week's Agriculture Report, Gerard Lampow chats with an agronomist as the crop is facing an uphill battle with hot summer weather.
There's not much that you can do when you're dealing with air temperatures.
Clint Yerke is the agronomy director for the Canola Council of Canada attached to Lloydminster and area. He says when temperatures get really hot, you have to ride it out and hope for some rain. Canola is what is called a plastic crop. It produces more flowers than it actually needs, on average 2 to 3 times more flowers.
That's a good thing, so that if the plant goes through a stress period where you do see a lot of these pods aborting off, there's more flowers to come for when the weather does improve.
Canola likes moisture more so than cereal crops. It needs water spread throughout the growing season, but too much heat affects yield.
I think ideally what we like to do is see good moisture leading up to flowering, and then it dries out during the flowering period, and then a little bit more moisture after flowering just to help fill those seeds to become larger.
But the longer the plant takes to reach maturity with a short growing season, you run the risk of a fall of frost. Yerke says since most of the crop in the Midwest went in late May and early June, that could be a problem. On the plus side, he says, even with a late start, the Midwest has received adequate rainfall when compared to parts of southern Saskatchewan.
Their crop went in at normal planting times, so early May, mid-May, most of the crop was already into the ground, but they haven't seen any rain, and so their crop is flowering right in the middle of this really dry, hot conditions, and so definitely there's been some yield loss.
Yerke says while conditions are not ideal, he has seen some producers manage on just 4 inches of rain for an entire growing season, and factor in some parts of the Midwest have already received more than 10 inches.
Some of the best looking crops that I've seen right now are probably a little bit further to the east. I haven't traveled all that much to the west just yet, but once we get in between North Battleford and Saskatoon, there's some really nice looking crops.
Gerard Lampow, Newcap News.
This is Newcap Sports.
At 1-4, the Lloydminster Liners aren't having the national tournament they hoped for, but Thursday brought a new day of baseball and a new team in the Mississauga Hurricanes. In the team's opener this afternoon, the girls looked down and out, but as Lance Phillips found out, the game isn't over until the final out is made.
It was just over 24 hours ago the Liners' collective hearts were broken when Brampton scored 2 in the final inning, earning a 7-6 victory. Thoughts of that dramatic loss still echoed Thursday afternoon in a game that didn't start well for Lloydminster. 4 first-inning errors allowed the Hurricanes to score 3, not the start it wanted, in a nearly must-win game.
You know, the nice thing, I guess, sometimes when you have those innings is if it's early, you got lots of time to chip away, right? You know, when it's the 4th or 5th and you do that, that can sink you, right?
For me, it's harder to mentally get back in the game, but teammates, having each other's back and everything, that definitely helps, and having a positive attitude always on the bench, that always keeps everybody up, and it seemed to work really well in this game.
And work well it did. Trailing 6-4 in the bottom of the 7th with 2 outs, the Liners used Wednesday's anguish as fuel to score 2, sending the game to extra innings. A key out in the top half kept Mississauga off the board, and in the bottom of the 8th, the Liners returned the favor from yesterday.
It's tough losing that way, and I think we've had a lot of games where we've got unlucky that way, and it was really nice to have a game where we turned it around, and it really gives us momentum going into the playoffs.
It feels really good to do that and show what we actually how we can actually play.
It was just nice that we found a few holes and made some good plays defensively late in the game, and then a couple clutch hits, and you know, that's what we hadn't got since the first day, and we got it this morning.
Arguably, the Liners' next game against the Calgary Adrenaline is their most important of the tournament, and not just because it gives the group an opportunity for better placement. Much more is on the line.
It's the team we lost to at Provincials, so we're very intent on having a good game against them, but we'll rest easy in between and hopefully come out pretty hard for the next game.
Oh man, it's huge, but I think this game that we just played is going to really tie into how we're going to play next game, and it's going to be a big one for us.
Lance Phillips, Newcap Sports, Lloydminster.
Well, it's always a treat to have local athletes who have gone on to play at higher levels back in town, and that was the case this week at the U18 National Championship Banquet. Madison Clark made her return to the border city as the guest speaker for the U18 banquet. The St. Joe's University athlete is taking in a few games and took a moment to reflect on her time as a liner.
It does bring back a lot of the good times that I used to have, especially with the liner softball. I remember we used to travel a lot and play a lot of different teams like throughout the States and Canada, and it was just one of my favorite experiences ever. It was like that age when I was playing softball, U18, we would go to the Canada Cup, and I just remember how much we would just have so much fun playing softball, you know?
Yeah, I had a little bit of emotion when Madison got up there and spoke tonight. It was great to see her back in town, and you know, I've known her since she was 14 years old, so it's basically, you know, until now, and so we always follow her and keep up with her. So that's a nice thing. I really appreciated her coming out tonight and doing that.
Clark, who has played the game since age 4, is enjoying her third year with the Hawks. The business major has played at Canada's national level, giving softball credit for not only her success on the diamond, but off of it as well.
I honestly think softball has made me who I am today. It's taught me so many life lessons about being on time or leadership or stuff like that, that I think sports are essential, or an essential thing in kids growing up. I think they should all play a sport.
The 2015 Atlantic All-Rookie team member also had a message for all the girls competing at this year's national championship.
I mean, I just hope that they have fun and they have a good time with their girlfriends, because I know that was one of the most things that I remember. Like, I'm not even sure if we won nationals one year. Like, I just remember having such a good time and being with my best friends and playing the sport that I love. There's nothing better.